Part 1 left off with Sigmund Freud, so let's pick back up on page 361. Freud's psychoanalysis was later joined by behavioral psychology, and this was developed by Ivan Pavlov, J.B. Watson, and B.F. Skinner. So make sure you highlight each of their names. Highlight that behavioral psychology basically just reduces man to the status of an animal or a machine. Down at the very bottom of that column, highlight psychological conditioning. And that's really what a lot of this turned into. And it's all about conditioning or programming people, individuals, to become tools to fit into where society needs them to be. So it's denying the individuality of each person and saying that we should each be programmed like a machine to fill a role in society perfectly, rather than becoming who God wants us to be. Let's talk about some more liberal philosophies here. Highlight the next one, pragmatism, and highlight the definition of this. It's the philosophy that an idea or an action should be judged solely by its results, regardless of any moral or scriptural considerations. So this would be the unbiblical context of it's okay to do wrong to do right. You can do wrong so long as your intentions are good and the results that come out are okay. Highlight the next one, existentialism. Highlight the definition of this. It claims that there is no truth or reality. No truth or reality. Highlight this guy's name, Soren Kierkegaard. Highlight that he taught that all men can do is take a leap of faith. Highlight the words great unknown and kind of reality. So in other words, each person is creating their own version of reality. Interesting idea. Highlight this next guy's name, Friedrich Nietzsche. He is another existentialist. Highlight he declared that God is dead. Pretty cocky guy to think that just because he says it, it is true. On page 362, highlight liberalism in education. And highlight this guy's name, John Dewey. And he is the guy who really brought about liberalized education in America. I remember how we talked about earlier that liberalism really began in European universities, particularly in Germany. We talked about that before, the whole Corona thing. And John Dewey was an American who went to a European university, and he brought back all of these liberal ideas from there. So highlight that he advocated what came to be known as progressive education. Follow farther down that paragraph, highlight that it allowed children to follow their, quote, animal instincts and to practice self-expression. So again, a philosophy here reducing people to little more than animals. Very dangerous. It prevents children from being disciplined in the classroom. It prevents there from being any expectation of decency and goodness, and just makes us all animals. Just follow your instincts, do whatever feels right to you. Very dangerous. Highlight on the next column, secular humanism. Highlight that it was a materialistic thought pattern. Highlight the definition of secularism. It's a belief that matters of morality should be based on consideration of the well-being of mankind in this present life. So denying the possibility of a future existence in heaven or in hell. Highlight this next term, humanism. And highlight for this, it's man's reasonings and feelings alone. There's no respect for God's authority. Ultimately, it is worship of man. And worship of man is probably really what you need to know for this. Highlight the date, 1933. Connect that to the Humanist Manifesto. And this was expressing point by point the faith of humanism, because it's really what it is, worshiping man instead of God. Highlight 40 years later, and then connect that down to the second place where it says Humanist Manifesto. It has that in italics, and highlight that it called for a one world order. So that's the abolishing of national governments and forming a transnational federal government. So it's disregarding, ethnic groups, different languages, different beliefs and cultures, saying that the entire globe should be under one world government. Very dangerous. Ultimately, such a plan is going to not work until the Antichrist comes, and then, well, we all know what's going to happen after that. So, let's look at page 363. Highlight religious liberalism versus the Christian witness. Highlight the rise of modernism. Highlight these things. Higher criticism. Highlight refuse to take the Bible literally. Highlight collection of ancient myths. Highlight positivism and denial of anything supernatural. So the guys who were advocating all of this, modernism and Christianity, they were, theologians, they were Bible scholars, and yet they were denying that the Bible was true. So I ask you, what's the point of studying the Bible if you're just going to say that everything about it is untrue? What's the point of being a minister or a theologian if that's going to be your conclusion? Highlight at the bottom of that paragraph, religious liberalism is often called modernism. So know that definition for modernism. On the top of the next column, highlight modernism was not new, but merely unbelief clothed in modern pseudoscientific garb. There had always been people throughout history who would deny that the Bible was true, who would try to say that it was just a collection of myths and stories. So it wasn't anything new in spite of the fact that it is called modernism. On the next paragraph, highlight the social gospel. Highlight that this was social reform and political action. So rather than true Christian belief, it was all about making reforms in society and using politics instead of, like Christian charity and truly caring for your fellow man. No, these guys in connection with the social gospel movement, Albrecht Ritschl, Walter Rauschenbusch, know that he was the prophet of the social gospel, and Harry Emerson Fosdick. On the next page, highlight the ecumenical movement. Highlight ecumenicism and its definition. This is the outward union of all churches, denominations, and sects into one organization regardless of doctrinal differences. So this would encourage any church under the umbrella of, quote-unquote Christianity to be one church, regardless of how each individual denomination interprets the Bible and what their beliefs are. Highlight that it caused a drop in biblical separation from worldly influences.